I remember as a child having all these thoughts of not feeling good enough or inadequate and everything, and I always tried to find that escape, and when I found the alcohol, that's what it provided for me. And it quickly became something that was just unmanageable. The first time I was out with my friends, we went over to the ground round, which is where I used to live up in Fort Lee, New Jersey, and I went to Fort Lee High School, and we went to the ground round, and they were talking about going to the ground round and having pitchers of beer. And I come from an alcoholic family, so I tried alcohol as a kid, just like little sips here and there, but like this is going to be it for me. I'm going to go, and I'm going to get drunk, and that's the way it's going to be. And I got trashed, and I liked it. I got invited to parties with people that I work with, and I thought it was normal to go over to people's houses and get trashed and have vodka and orange juice, like this much vodka and this much orange juice, and like throw up all over the place. Sorry, I didn't sound disgusting. And I wonder why I didn't get invited back. Soon after, I found my drug of choice, which was marijuana, and that really helped me to open up and really talk about things, and it brought out a lot of other like stupid behaviors, but that's just what the drugs do. And as soon as I picked up the alcohol and went to the marijuana, like almost immediately, my life just became unmanageable. I noticed that my relationships with my sisters and my parents, like I became defiant. I didn't want to listen to what they had to say. All I wanted to do was hang out with my friends and get high and everything. And this is around like my senior year in high school. So my parents approached me, and they told me that we were going to be moving down the shore. So like part of me felt, okay, well, I didn't want to leave the people that I'm using with, because like I'm having such a good time. But at the same time, I thought to myself, well, maybe I can get a new start, like have a job and like do something with my life. But as soon as I moved down the shore, when I found a job, I almost immediately gravitated to those people who were doing drugs. And am I supposed to only just talk about how I came into the rooms, or is it okay to tell them about it? And it was just unmanageability in all areas. Because when I moved down the shore, like I was meeting all these people, and it seemed like the only people that I was meeting were the people that used drugs. And I was meeting their friends, and they got high, and I was getting high with all these people, and that's all I did. All I wanted to do was get high. And when I had a meeting with my parents, my mother and I and my stepfather, we had like a very tumultuous relationship. And when things got bad, I would just go to the cop spot and get high. And that's just how it was. And like my employment, I couldn't hold a job, constantly calling out sick. I was a slacker, I didn't want to work. And financially, all my money was going towards drugs. Couldn't pay my car insurance, couldn't, pay the little bit of money that my parents were expecting me to pay because I was living under their roof. And just everything, the social skills went out the window. Everything that I was supposed to become just stopped. I was, like the second I picked up the drugs, it just stunted my growth. Like during that 23, 24 years, that was a period where I was supposed to be learning like social skills and like bettering myself. and all these important things that, you know, that to be an adult, and it just stopped. And a lot of times I felt like I was inside in a bubble. Like I would see all these other people having a good time, doing things, and I'd said to myself, like, how do I get involved in all this stuff? And I was so much in denial that it was the drugs. And it went on like that for years and years. I've had surgeries in active addiction whereby I've abused pills and Percocets and all those other pills, you know, Darvocet and whatever was available. And you know, people told me like 10, 20 years before I got clean, like, Domenic, like maybe you should think about going to NA or something. Like you do something, because you're out of control. Like all you want to do is get high. You act as soon as you like pick up the drugs, you're a crazy man. You know, you can't be around you. And they were telling me about the program. They're saying, you know, you go to meetings, you talk about your problems, you get a sponsor, you call them every day, and you let them know what's going on. Like I didn't want to be bothered with any of that. Like I just wanted to get high, like I was having a good time. And then I finally got a good job. I worked for the Postal Service. I'm a letter carrier. I've been there close to 16 years now. And when I first started, I got hired around the holidays. I was working all these hours, and like 60 hours a week. So more money meant more drugs. And it was just a matter of time before I gravitated to the people who were using the drugs. And like, sure enough, I met this guy on the job. We started talking, and somehow the drugs were brought up. And he's like, "Oh, why don't you come over to my house and hang out?" And we'll party a little bit. I was like, "Okay, fine." I went over his house, hung out. His family seemed cool and everything. And before you know it, like every week, I was going over there. It's like buying an eighth a week, and then it kept going from an eighth a week to like 2 eighths a week. And the alcohol was still in the picture, because like when I was using, I didn't know how to deal with stress. Like I didn't have any tools to deal with any stressful situations except the drugs. The drugs were my tool for coping with things. And you know, the drug deals were going down in the parking lot, government property. A guy would be coming over to my car, handing me an eighth. And like, I'd be walking around with it in the job, in my pocket, hiding it in my locker, and saying to myself, like, what do I do with this? Like, it's on me. If they catch me, I'm on government property, and I could be fired. And that was one of many times. But I didn't know how to stop. And finally, it got to the point where I didn't want to get high anymore. Like, I wanted to just stop, because the drugs weren't working anymore. I wasn't getting high. The more I used, the less high I felt. So the more I used more, and it wasn't doing anything for me. And it brought me to a point where I started to feel really depressed. I thought, there was thoughts of suicide going through my mind. Like, I'd be driving down the road on the highway, and like head on with the tractor trailer seemed really good. Like anything to just end the speed that I was in. And so what happened was, I finally decided to go to my doctor, and maybe he can help me out. I decided to go on antidepressants. And he put me on, I don't know, a couple different things. I was still drinking, I was still getting high, and it was making me crazy. So I didn't want to stop doing the drugs, because my thinking got me in here. You know, like, instead of putting the drugs down, like, and taking care of my problem, like, my thinking was, all right, let me take these antidepressants to help me feel better, and when I feel that I can stop smoking pot and doing all these other drugs I was doing the acid and everything, I'll just stop, and then, like, I'll be able to do it on my own. Like, it's crazy. And so I went back to my psych doctor, and I told him what was going on. Like, I'm having all these like anxiety attacks. I'm like on the line at ShopRite. I'm like freaking out. I'm gonna put my stuff down and leave. And then he put me on these. They were called Gavitrol. I don't even know if they're still on the market. But they're for people who have anxiety and seizures. And I asked him, well, how many of these can I take? Gavitrol. And he said, you can take as many as you want. That's, I swear on my mother's ashes. And that's exactly what I did. I started taking them as prescribed, but then there were little pills, and I just started taking handfuls. I'd get behind the wheel of the car, I'd start driving. I'd end up trying to go from point A to point B, and end up going to point Z, and not knowing how I got there, and not knowing like who I was or anything. And then it got worse. I got a tooth pulled. The guy gave me a prescription for hydrocodone, which I found out recently was pharmaceutical grade heroin. And I didn't know that. And you know, again, like I'm doing things that are crazy, overdosing, could have killed myself, and still like being in denial. And finally, it got to the point where I'm like making all these mistakes at the job, and my boss calls me into the office, and he says, Dom, you're doing all these things where you're like grabbing other people's you know, carts and bringing them out to the loading dock, and like you know, my boss would ask me about things that happened the day before, totally like draw a blank, and not be able to answer the question. Popping these pills and going into work, and like going into work high. You tell me to come in at 11 o'clock. I come in like an hour and a half late, and things just came to a head. The manager at the time, well, let me back up a little bit. About a month before, I was going to my psych doctor, and I was telling him, look, can you like up my prescription on these Gavitrol, because they're not doing it. And that's my addict thinking. Like, they're doing what they're supposed to do, but I'm abusing them. And I wanted a higher prescription. So he gave me the highest prescription available, the highest dosage, and I was supposed to split this dosage up throughout the day. But me, being the addict that I am, and thinking I could do things my way, one morning I decided to take the whole thing at one time and take like Tylenol PM or something crazy. Then I'm driving on the way to work. I'm 195. I'm supposed to get off at 60A. Instead, I get off at 8A for Heightstown. I'm sitting at a green light, and people are honking their horns, wondering why I'm not going. And people are knocking on my windows, and I'm just sitting there like this, like in a trance. Because that's what it does to you. It shuts down your brain receptors, and you can't understand or anything. And someone came over to me, asked me if I was okay. I thought it was a police officer, and I think that's who it was. And the next thing you know, they're throwing me into an ambulance. I'm in my work uniform, and I'm like looking down. I'm saying to myself, well, I should be at work right now. Like, something's not right. And I get to Princeton Medical Center. They're taking me off the ambulance. My sister, who's a nurse, came up with my mother, who's dying of lung cancer, and she told my mother, you know, if he does this once,